Continuing our Godtear Tactica, we're jumping in with some champion analysis and tactica. This idea that each warband is made up of two different units. The champion itself, which has tremendous power. That champion has literally infused themselves with the salty tears of the gods. And of course, the followers, the actual warbands, whether they're large followers or regular followers, that support the champion. Now, the primary tactic of the champion, what's interesting is many of the champions can do a good amount of damage. They also have abilities to increase or decrease opposing stats, and they are the most powerful pieces in the game. How do we utilize them? This idea in Godtear, the very, very unique structure that within each round you are earning points. There are multiple ways to earn points. And you want to earn enough points because as you earn points and your opponent earns points, they play against each other until the end of the round. Whoever has the most points wins. So we have these powerful pieces. The champions, they need to be earning every single turn. So let's look at the three ways to earn. And the primary way, I'm putting forth in this Tactica vlog, the primary way to earn points might not be the most optimal way to earn points. So the first way is to destroy other followers and to destroy other champions. You kill it, you get some points. How many points you get is set, but then, of course, depending on the faction, you might get some bonus points. But champions get points for removing other models. Second to that, of course, planting banners. Now, banners claiming the God tiers. You've got these piles of God tier, these objective markers. Claiming them is massive in the game because you get points when you plant your banner, possibly bonus points depending on the faction. And then at the end of the round, you get points for every banner that is planted. So the primary way to earn points, planting banners, but also kind of an inverse. If I can smash your banners, if I can remove your banners, then I don't gain points, but you don't gain points. So it's kind of like I gain points. So I'm looking to plant my banner, and then I'm looking to prevent you from planting yours or smashing yours. The next aspect of champions is battlefield manipulation, the ability to grant powers, the ability to move objective hexes, the ability to interact with my own additional warbands if we're playing 2 or 3, or my opponents. And those actions play into the first and second in that through the manipulations of my champion, I'm either looking to help prevent you from destroying my warband, or I'm increasing the power of my warband, or I'm messing with your ability to plant banners or smash banners. Okay, we've got that framework. Now, this is the interesting question. If I'm a champion, do I want my champion to take on other champions, or is that a waste of time? Now, if we look at champions, they'll have similar agility to the warband, and this changes depending. They'll have a good amount of armor. They'll have a good amount of life, and they are not removed from play. They get knocked out. You spend an action, you get back up, but that does cost an action. So in terms of the champions themselves, whether you've taken 1 wound or say taken 6 wounds and you have 7 total, you still have the same amount of ability. You still have the same amount of powers that you can utilize. In Godtear, there is not a sliding wound structure, which is a good thing. I like the idea of a sliding wound structure in games, in theory, but it really kind of drags the game down. A sliding wound structure is where you say, okay, here's your model, and these are the stats. This is where it can move. This is its abilities. This is what it can shoot. And when it has full wounds, when it's not hurt, it can do these things. But then if it takes 3 wounds, its stats get reduced. Now it can do these things. If it has 1 wound left, now it can do these options. That sounds kind of cool in game design, game theory, but in practice, it kind of really just slows things down, and it takes out the power of some of these key pieces. Where if you're playing a game with the sliding wounds and it's on a powerful, say like champion, when you get down to one wound, there's now no incentive for me to interact with that champion anymore because it's no longer a threat. Can't really move, can't really fight, can't really do anything. So Godtear has made it where the champions, whether they have one wound left or 5 or 6 wounds, they're still up there. They're still very, very powerful. You have to deal with them. That keeps player engagement. Now, what this means is if I have a champion and I have to make some decisions, okay, if I go against your champion, it might take 2 or 3, at least 2, maybe 3 rounds to kill your champion, to remove your champion. Those are resources, because remember, whether it's the plot phase or the clash phase, I have limited resources. I can move and use an ability. I can move, plant my banner. I can plant my banner or maybe use an ability. When I get to the clash phase, I can move, I can do this. It's very, very limited. So if I attack your champion and I cause 2 wounds, because remember, I have to hit. You might have bonuses. You might have negative modifiers. I've got to bypass your armor. Then what's left, you subtract from your life. If I don't take you out, I've kind of wasted that turn, or I haven't optimally utilized that turn. So regular champions, non-slayers, let me say non-slayer factions, the slayers are the red factions. I don't want to be trying to beat on your champion, because if it takes 2 or 3 turns to do that, at least 2. I mean, yes, I could get lucky. I mean, there have been some times where that was the only target available, let's say. Planted my banner, blocked it. There's my target, and I have attacked a champion because, look, that's the only other action I'm going to take it. And just I rolled legendary and kills your champion. They're like, what the heck just happened? I mean, that happens in any type of game, but I can't rely on that. I am better off with a champion taking out followers, because I absolutely can kill one follower a turn, and based on a champion that might have bonus actions or dual actions. I'm thinking half tusk, 1 punch, 2 punch. I might take out 2 of your followers. Those are 2 points that I've earned, or if there's additional modifiers, potentially 3 or 4 points that I've earned. I'm better off utilizing the jacked up attack value of champions to attack followers to remove them and plant banners and crunch banners and have battlefield manipulation. That's kind of the focus. Now, where this switches 100%, Slayers. Slayers are champions that are super jacked up, ready to go, right? The kind of the classic Rangosh, just good movement, lots of attack dice, lots of ways of manipulation. If you back them up with kind of a green support band, that can give them additional bonuses to attack and dice rolled. They wreck. They absolutely wreck. I can, with the right buffs and combinations, which that's what Godtear is all about, the synergies, I can take out a champion per turn. When I take out your champion, I get 4 points. 4 points on that scale. That is massive. On top of that, I get the +1 bonus for the Slayer. That's a different story. Slayer Tactica is, and again, those are the red faction models. I am going to be going headhunting. I am going to be going after things switch where battlefield control becomes secondary. Planting banners, I'm going to do it on my way in. I'm going to try and bypass some piles of tiers and plant it. But even with that, I'm probably going against your champions to try and kill them. That's the first primary, because I can guarantee get those points. That's where things change. Now, if I am going to go after champions, you need massive synergy. And this is a little bit harder than others. That certain missions help. Let's say the first mission in the game, life. This is where you have piles of Godtears, 4 Godtears in the center of the table. And they mutate and grow every turn. The losing faction gets to add a number of tiers. Essentially, it's a center cluster of tiers. This is a great tactical example of if we're playing with 3 champions, and this is Godtear, of course, you can play with 1 warband, You can play with 2, or you can play with 3. We've experimented with multiple players, and we've actually played 6-on-6 warbands. Things get really, really crazy. There's absolutely a little bit of game imbalance on there, and it's just basically a massive, massive brawl. But it's a lot of fun, and it's a way to bring in multiple players to Godtear with how that works and how that activates. But generally speaking, Raw, rules as written, 1 player, 2 player, 3 player per faction, or I should say 1, 2, or 3 factions per player. When you're playing Life, because everything's clustered, what you see is all the champions are up there trying to plant banners. I can possibly kill champions, but I have to gang up 2 or 3 champions on 1 champion, outside of Slayers. The only way I'm going to take out one of your champions is have multiples attacking to try and take you out. Well, in the other later missions where the tiers are scattered, knowledge or death, and they shrink and they move, this idea that I've got a champion over here, I've got a champion there, and I've got a champion in my backfield. I can't generate enough dice outside of playing a Slayer to reliably do that. So if you are going to try and take on other champions and you're not playing a Slayer, then Slayer Warband, then I need to try and gang up at least 2-on-1, or ideally 3-on-1. That will work, but I don't include that as a main tactica because you know what I'm doing. Are you going to let 1 champion just sit there and get attacked by 3? No, you're going to have other champions. You're going to have things blocking. You're going to utilize followers. You're going to utilize pushback and other synergies. A great example of a synergy would be where you have a champion that I'm going to target. I'm going to decrease their ability to move by 1. So I'm going to take their ability to move down for the turn, for when they move. Then I will use a synergy where I will push them back 1 or 2 spaces. So now what that means is not only have I decreased your movement, but I've pushed you back further, potentially subtracting your movement because you'll move up and you're right where you were before. So this idea of trying to nullify and push back champions, it's harder in practice than you think to just run up and gang up 3-on-1 or 2-on-1. But if we're going to do it, that's how we focus on. That's what we're going to try and do. So champion tactica, right? It's a lot of fun just to have champions beating on champions. But the question is, Godtear, are we out there earning? Are we out there earning every single round? Plot phase, clash phase, deployment phase, you got to be earning. So I want to go for the guarantee. The guarantee is beating on followers and minions. The guarantee is planting banners. The guarantee is smashing and removing banners. Third to that would be champion versus champion. Unless I'm a Slayer. That changes everything.